There comes a moment in life when the noise around you becomes so loud that you can no longer hear your own voice. Expectations, comparisons, fears, and failures begin to pull you in different directions until you forget what it feels like to stand still and ask yourself a simple question: where am I going? Not where the world is pushing me, not where people expect me to be, but where my soul feels alive. Many of us wake up every morning and follow routines we never chose. We walk paths we never designed. We chase definitions of success that were handed to us by society, family, or fear, and then one day we feel empty, even after achieving everything we were told would make us happy. That emptiness is not failure, it is a signal. It is your inner voice whispering that you are walking, but you are not walking in your direction. Finding your direction is not about speed. It is about honesty. It requires you to pause, to sit with yourself without distraction, without performance, without pretending. Because purpose does not shout in crowded rooms. It speaks in silence. And only those who are brave enough to face their own truth can hear it. You will face moments when life will break your plans. Doors you prayed for will close. Paths you trusted will disappear. You will feel lost, and in that lostness you will believe that life has abandoned you. But sometimes, losing your way is the only way to find your true direction, because when everything familiar is taken away, what remains is who you really are. Purpose is not always born from comfort. Often it is born from pain. The wounds you hide, the struggles you survived, the tears no one saw, inside them lies a map pointing toward the life you are meant to live and the lives you are meant to touch. Your hardships are not punishments, they are preparations. There is a powerful shift that happens when you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to make me?" That question transforms suffering into strength. It turns obstacles into direction signs, and suddenly you realize that your story is not meant to be hidden, it is meant to guide. You do not need the entire roadmap of life to move forward. You only need the courage to take one step in the direction that feels true. Clarity does not come before movement, it comes because of movement. When you start walking with faith, the fog begins to lift. When you trust your inner compass, the road begins to reveal itself. There will be people who will not understand your direction. Some will question you, some will doubt you, some will even laugh at you, not because you are wrong, but because your courage reflects their fears. Never let someone else's limited vision define your limitless path. It takes strength to follow a crowded road, but it takes courage to create your own. You must understand that purpose is not always grand in appearance. It is not always loud, famous, or celebrated. Sometimes purpose looks like kindness when the world is cruel. Sometimes it looks like resilience when life is unfair. Sometimes it looks like standing back up when no one expected you to rise again. Do not measure your direction by applause. Measure it by alignment, by peace, by the quiet sense that even if the journey is hard, it feels right in your bones. There will be seasons of confusion, times when you will feel stuck between who you were and who you are becoming. Do not fear those seasons. Transformation always feels like chaos before it feels like clarity. A seed must break before it becomes a tree, and breaking is never comfortable, but it is necessary. You are allowed to outgrow dreams that no longer fit your soul. You are allowed to change direction. You are allowed to begin again, no matter your age, no matter your past, no matter how many times you have failed. Because purpose is not a single destination. It is an evolving journey. As you grow, your direction becomes clearer. As you heal, your vision becomes sharper. As you accept yourself, your path becomes lighter. The greatest tragedy in life is not failure. It is living a life that does not belong to you. Ask yourself, what makes me feel alive? What pain have I survived that could become someone else's hope? What gift do I carry that the world needs, even if it feels small? Your direction lives inside the answers to those questions. Do not wait for perfect conditions to begin. You may never have them. Start with what you have. Start where you are. Start even if your voice shakes and your steps tremble. Direction is discovered in motion, not in hesitation. And remember this, purpose is not proven by how easy your life becomes, but by how meaningful it feels despite the difficulty. When you walk in your true direction, struggles do not disappear, but they gain meaning, and meaning gives you the strength to continue. You are not here by accident. Your existence carries intention. Your voice carries impact. Your journey carries lessons that someone, somewhere needs in order to keep going. So do not shrink yourself to fit spaces that were never designed for you. Do not silence your truth to keep others comfortable. Do not abandon your direction just because the road is lonely. Sometimes the most powerful paths are the ones you walk alone at the beginning. Trust the detours. Trust the delays. Trust the seasons where nothing seems to move. Even when you feel lost, life is aligning pieces you cannot yet see. One day, you will look back and realize that every hardship redirected you, every rejection refined you, every moment of confusion repositioned you closer to the life that was waiting for your courage. You are both the traveler and the compass, the question and the answer, the seeker and the direction itself. And when you finally choose to live with purpose, not fear, not comparison, not expectation, you stop wandering and start arriving, step by step, into the life that was always calling your name. Direction in life does not begin with opportunity, resources, or luck. It begins with truth, the kind of truth that many people spend their entire lives avoiding. We live in a world filled with noise, opinions, expectations, comparisons, and pressures that slowly become louder than our own inner voice. From a young age, we are taught what success should look like, what careers are respectable, what dreams are practical, and what paths are acceptable. Without realizing it, we begin to build lives based on borrowed definitions. We start walking roads designed by others, wearing identities shaped by approval, rather than authenticity. At first it feels normal. You follow the system, you meet expectations, you achieve milestones. But deep inside there is often a quiet unrest, a feeling that something is missing, even when everything appears complete. That feeling is not confusion, it is misalignment. It is your inner self signaling that you are moving but not in your direction. Self-honesty requires you to pause long enough to hear that signal. And pausing can be terrifying, because when you stop distracting yourself with routines and obligations, you are left alone with your thoughts. You begin to confront questions you have been avoiding. Am I happy or am I just comfortable? Am I fulfilled or am I just approved? Am I living my life or performing one? These questions are uncomfortable because they demand accountability. It becomes easy to blame circumstances, people, or limitations for why you feel lost. But self-honesty redirects the mirror back toward you. It asks you to acknowledge the choices you made to please others, the dreams you silenced to avoid judgment, and the fears that kept you standing still when your heart wanted to move. Many people fear self-honesty because they think it will dismantle their entire life, and sometimes it does. It may reveal that the career you chase does not fulfill you, that the environment you are in suppresses you, that the version of yourself you present to the world is incomplete. But destruction is not always negative. Sometimes things must fall apart so that truth can stand in their place. Self-honesty is not about self-criticism. It is about self-recognition. It is about seeing yourself clearly without filters, without denial, without performance. When you allow yourself to do that, you begin to understand your real desires, your natural strengths, and your emotional truths. You realize that direction is not something you find outside. It is something you uncover within. There is a powerful shift that occurs when you stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "What feels right to me?" That question reconnects you with your inner compass. It moves you away from imitation and closer to individuality, because no two directions are meant to look the same. Self-honesty also requires courage to accept what you discover. It is one thing to admit you are unhappy. It is another to accept responsibility for changing it. Many people prefer silent dissatisfaction over uncertain transformation. They stay in familiar misery rather than risk unfamiliar fulfillment. But direction never reveals itself to those who refuse to face themselves. When you practice self-honesty, you begin noticing patterns. You recognize what drains you and what energizes you. You see where you shrink and where you expand. You understand the difference between what impresses others and what nourishes your soul. You begin to realize that purpose is often hidden in the things that feel most natural to you, but most insignificant in the eyes of the world. What comes easily to you may be difficult for someone else. What you dismiss as ordinary may be your extraordinary gift. Self-honesty also forces you to confront fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of instability, fear of disappointing people who had different plans for you. These fears create internal conflict, making you doubt your own direction before you begin. But acknowledging fear is part of honesty. Pretending you are fearless is illusion. Real courage is admitting you are afraid and choosing alignment anyway. There will be moments when self-honesty isolates you, when you realize you no longer resonate with certain environments, conversations, or expectations. Growth often creates distance, not because you are better, but because you are clearer. Clarity changes your tolerance. You can no longer remain where you must betray yourself to belong. This stage can feel lonely. You may question whether authenticity is worth the discomfort it brings. But loneliness born from truth is far more peaceful than belonging built on pretense. Self-honesty teaches you to trust your inner voice, even when it contradicts external validation. It strengthens your ability to stand by your decisions without needing constant approval. You stop outsourcing your worth to opinions and start grounding it in alignment. You also begin to redefine success. Instead of measuring life by comparison, you measure it by congruence. Are your actions aligned with your values? Are your choices aligned with your truth? Are you building a life that reflects who you are or who you were told to be? This awareness becomes your compass. It does not eliminate confusion entirely, but it prevents you from drifting too far from yourself. Direction becomes clearer, not because life becomes easier, but because you become more honest. Even mistakes begin to guide you. When you make a wrong turn, self-honesty allows you to admit it quickly rather than defend it for years out of pride. You become more flexible, more self-aware, more intentional. You stop chasing every opportunity and start choosing aligned ones. You stop saying yes out of obligation and start saying yes out of conviction. Your decisions become less reactive and more conscious. Over time, this honesty builds inner peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer divided within yourself. There is power in knowing that the life you are building reflects your truth, even if the world does not fully understand it. And that peace becomes the foundation of direction. Pain has a language of its own. It speaks in moments when words fail, when strength feels distant, and when life seems to press heavier than your capacity to endure. No one welcomes pain. No one plans for it, and yet it arrives. Uninvited, unexpected, and often unforgiving. It interrupts dreams, reshapes plans, and forces you to confront versions of yourself you never knew existed. In the midst of suffering, it is natural to ask, "Why me?" That question echoes in hospital rooms, in silent nights, in broken ambitions, in shattered confidence. It carries frustration, grief, and helplessness. But the longer you remain in that question, the heavier pain becomes. Because "why me?" has no doorway forward. It keeps you locked inside the wound. There is another question, quieter but far more powerful. What is this trying to make me? That question does not erase pain, but it transforms your relationship with it. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance, you begin to see yourself as a student of experience. And pain, no matter how harsh, becomes a teacher. Every hardship carries a lesson, though it rarely reveals it immediately. When you are in the middle of the storm, all you can see is destruction. You cannot yet see the resilience being built within you, the empathy being carved into your heart, or the strength forming beneath your fear. Pain strips away illusions. It removes superficial layers and exposes your raw humanity. In comfort, it is easy to pretend strength. In suffering, you discover whether that strength is real. There is a certain clarity that only pain can bring. It shows you who stands beside you when life is difficult. It reveals the depth of your patience, the limits of your endurance, and the courage you did not know you possessed. It forces you to slow down and reevaluate what truly matters. Often, the things you once chased lose importance: status, approval, competition. These begin to fade when survival, healing, or rebuilding becomes your focus. Pain reorganizes your priorities. It shifts your vision from external validation to internal meaning. What once seemed like the end can quietly become a beginning. Many people try to hide their pain, to bury it under forced smiles and practice strength. They believe vulnerability is weakness. They fear that showing their wounds will make them appear broken. But unacknowledged pain does not disappear. It hardens. It turns into bitterness, anger, or numbness. When pain is faced, felt, and processed, it transforms. It softens you in places where you were once rigid. It deepens your compassion for others. You begin to understand struggles you once judged because now you have lived your own. This is where purpose begins to emerge. Your wounds become bridges. They connect you to people who are walking through the same darkness you once survived. Your story becomes evidence that survival is possible. Your voice becomes reassurance that pain does not last forever. Purpose is often born in the exact place you were hurt the most. The one who felt invisible learns to uplift others. The one who was broken learns to rebuild others. The one who suffered learns to heal others. It is not coincidence, it is transformation. Pain refines perspective. It teaches gratitude in ways comfort never could. After loss, you value presence. After illness, you value health. After rejection, you value belonging. The smallest blessings begin to feel extraordinary because you have known what it means to live without them. This gratitude fuels purpose. It motivates you to live more intentionally, to waste less time, to love more openly, to serve more deeply. There is also strength that only pain can forge, not loud strength, not aggressive strength, but quiet resilience, the kind that allows you to stand again after life has knocked you down repeatedly, the kind that does not need applause because survival itself is proof. When you walk through fire and emerge, you carry heat within you, not to burn others but to light paths. Your scars become symbols not of damage but of endurance. They remind you that you have faced what you once thought would destroy you, and you are still here, and being still here rise responsibility, because survival alone is powerful, but survival with purpose is transformational. You begin to realize that your experiences were not meant to end with you. They were meant to flow through you into impact. The lessons you learned, the strength you built, the hope you regained, these are not accidents. They are tools placed in your hands. Pain also dismantles perfection. It humbles you. It teaches you that control is limited and certainty is fragile. But instead of making you weaker, this humility makes you more human, more connected, more authentic. You stop pretending to have all the answers. You become open, teachable, compassionate, and in that authenticity, people find healing, not because you are flawless, but because you are real. Purpose does not require you to erase your pain. It asks you to use it, to speak from it, to build from it, to uplift from it, to guide from it. Some of the most meaningful paths are walked by those who never chose their struggles, but chose their response to them. Pain can close you, or it can expand you. It can make you bitter, or it can make you better. It can silence you, or it can give you a voice strong enough to echo in the lives of others. The transformation does not happen overnight. There are days when wounds reopen, when memories ache, when strength feels distant again. Healing is not linear, growth is not constant. But even in those moments, something within you has changed. You no longer see pain as meaningless. You see it as material, raw, heavy but moldable, and slowly you shape it into purpose. Walking your path with courage rather than approval is one of the most difficult choices a person can make. From the moment you begin to understand the world, you are conditioned to seek validation. As children, we look for praise. As students, we chase grades. As adults, we pursue recognition, titles, and applause. Approval becomes a form of emotional currency, something that makes us feel worthy, accepted, and secure. Over time, many people begin to measure their direction not by inner alignment, but by external reaction. They ask, will people support this? Before asking, is this true to me? They hesitate, adjust, shrink, and reshape themselves to fit expectations that were never designed for their soul. Approval can be comforting, but it can also be imprisoning, because the moment your direction depends on applause, you lose ownership of your path. You begin living performatively rather than authentically. You start making decisions based on acceptance rather than purpose, and slowly, without realizing it, you drift away from yourself. Courage interrupts that drift. Courage asks you to listen inward before you look outward. It demands that you honor your convictions even when they are unpopular. It calls you to stand firm in your truth, even when your voice shakes and your certainty feels fragile. Choosing courage does not mean you will not feel fear. In fact, fear often becomes louder the moment you decide to follow your own direction. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of disappointing those who believed you would choose differently. You may face resistance from people you love, not always because they want to stop you, but because they fear for you. They may not understand your vision. They may project their insecurities onto your decisions. They encourage safety when your soul is calling for risk. This is where courage becomes essential, because approval often asks you to stay where you are comfortable, while purpose asks you to move where you are called. There is a loneliness that can accompany courageous direction. When you step off the familiar road, the crowd thins. The voices that once guided you grow distant. You begin navigating decisions without constant reassurance. At first, this solitude can feel unsettling. You may question yourself. You may wonder if approval was safer than authenticity, but solitude also brings clarity. Without constant noise, your inner voice grows stronger. Your intuition sharpens, your trust in yourself deepens. You begin to realize that approval is temporary, but alignment is sustaining. Courage also requires you to redefine failure. When you walk a path chosen by others, failure feels like humiliation because it comes with judgment. But when you walk your own path, failure becomes instruction. It is no longer proof that you are unworthy, it is proof that you are learning. Every courageous step expands your resilience. You become less dependent on outcomes and more committed to growth. You understand that mistakes made in authenticity carry more value than successes achieved in pretense. Approval seeks perfection. Courage embraces progress. There will be moments when people misunderstand your direction. They may label you unrealistic, stubborn, or naive. They may measure your choices using their fears rather than your vision. It is important to remember that people can only understand paths they have imagined for themselves. When your direction lies outside their imagination, confusion is natural. You cannot expect universal approval for a journey that is uniquely yours. Courage teaches you to accept this without resentment. You stop needing everyone to agree with you. You stop explaining your purpose to those committed to misunderstanding it. You conserve your energy for movement rather than justification. This does not mean you stop valuing guidance. Wisdom from mentors, loved ones, and experience remains valuable, but there is a difference between listening and surrendering. Courage allows you to hear advice without abandoning your inner compass. Walking your path also requires emotional endurance. There will be seasons when results are invisible, when your efforts go unnoticed, when your progress feels slow compared to others who chose more conventional routes. In those moments, approval may seem tempting again. The desire to return to familiar validation can resurface. But courage reminds you why you began. It reconnects you with purpose rather than comparison. You begin measuring success differently, not by visibility, but by authenticity, not by speed, but by meaning, not by applause, but by inner peace. There is also freedom that comes with courageous living. When you stop seeking approval, you stop fearing disapproval. You become less controlled by opinions and more guided by conviction. This freedom allows creativity to expand. It allows risk to feel possible. It allows you to explore potentials that approval would have restricted. You begin living fully rather than cautiously. Courage does not eliminate doubt, but it prevents doubt from becoming direction. You may still question yourself, but you no longer abandon your path at the first sign of uncertainty. You develop emotional independence, the ability to stand by your truth even when validation is absent. Over time, something powerful happens. The same people who once doubted your direction may begin to respect it, not always because they understand it, but because consistency builds credibility. Courage, when sustained, becomes visible strength. But even if approval never comes, the reward of alignment remains. You wake up knowing that your life reflects your choices, your beliefs, your truth. There is dignity in that ownership. Walking your path with courage also inspires others silently. People watching from a distance may find strength in your authenticity. Your willingness to choose purpose over approval becomes permission for them to do the same. You may never know whose life you impact simply by refusing to betray yourself. Courage transforms direction from obligation into calling. It turns life from performance into expression. It replaces the exhaustion of pretending with the energy of authenticity. And even when the road is uncertain, even when the future is unclear, even when approval is absent, you continue walking, not because the path is easy, but because it is yours. Every journey of direction and purpose ultimately leads back to one place, the realization of who you truly are beneath the noise, beneath the pain, and beyond the approval of the world. When you become honest with yourself, you stop living on borrowed dreams and begin walking in alignment with your soul. When you transform your pain instead of hiding it, you turn your wounds into wisdom and your survival into service. And when you choose courage over approval, you stop performing life and start living it with meaning. All three truths intertwine to shape a life that is not defined by comfort, but by purpose. Self-honesty gives you the vision to see your path. Pain gives you the depth to understand your mission. Courage gives you the strength to walk it, even when the road feels lonely. Together they create a direction that is unshakable, because it is built from truth, resilience, and authenticity. You begin to understand that purpose is not something you chase outside. It is something you awaken within. It grows every time you choose alignment over imitation, growth over bitterness, and bravery over fear. It reveals itself in the lives you touch, the hope you ignite, and the strength you reflect back into a world that desperately needs it. And when you finally stand in the fullness of your direction, not perfect, not fearless, but real, you realize that everything you endured was shaping you, guiding you, and preparing you for this very path. Walk it with faith, own it with courage, and never forget, you were created to live on purpose, not by accident.